by far and away the most important characteristic that we look for in any company is quality business. Companies that tend to have high market shares, pricing power, high return on capital, free cash flow. We look for resilient businesses. And that's probably the single most important characteristic, is just quality businesses. They're definitely affected. I mean, if we look at the index, there'll be a good portion of companies that are in cyclical industries that will be impacted in a huge way. Our job is to try to find companies that are not as affected. I mean, my dream company is a company that does well in a good environment and can grow in a good environment, but can also grow in a bad environment. And so those are the companies that we try for. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, the European crisis is going to have an impact on companies, and our job is to find out the best ones and the ones that are lesser impacted. To be honest, so far, companies are still doing relatively well. In the odd case, there has been some slowdown. On a global basis, we're hearing of some slowdown in Asia, and that's important for my companies because they sell a lot into Asia. But by and large, I don't think that the real downturn is really hit the market yet. I don't try to balance it, but we invest in a bottoms-up basis. So if we find a lot of quality businesses in business services, for example, and that is actually one sector that we find a lot of high-quality, resilient businesses, then we'll invest in more companies in that sector. Financials, for example, is an area that we're very uncertain about. And because of that uncertainty, both economically and also what's on their balance sheet and the leverage to do with that, we're underweight that sector. But yeah, I mean, we find good ideas in every sector, but there's some ideas it's easier to find in some sectors than others. It's an important question, and there's not, in many. Your first part of your question was what type of visibility is there out there. I think that the answer to that depends upon the industry. There are certain industries like consumer products or tobacco, or I own a funeral service company that operates funeral homes. That's relatively predictable, and I don't really anticipate there'll be a huge change in some of those sectors. In other sectors like industrials and in financials and basic materials, I think they're potentially, maybe there's visibility for a few months, but I would bet that most of them don't have any visibility towards next year. Again, we try to find companies that are a little bit more resilient, that do have a little bit more visibility, where the business is not just going to completely collapse if a downturn hits. But yeah, I mean, if things get out of control, I would say there are very few industries that will not be impacted at all. I would say it depends upon the industry. In general, the European small caps are trading at a premium to where they normally do heading into the downturn. To be honest, European small caps have come down a little bit more than larger caps, but they still trade at a small premium, and that's normally above where they should be. So I think it depends upon the industry whether they've been punished too much or not. There's some stocks that to be honest, I think that they haven't been punished enough. And then there's other ones that if I don't think that they've been punished unfairly, then I'll swoop in and buy those. But again, I think it probably depends upon the industry.